This is Professor of Medicine, Desiree Dubinet, the man who left America to find freedom. He's no longer a man.
Don't die tomorrow, don't die of fright. If you ever need protection, you gotta make your selection.
You see, life comes from the sun, and the plants take this energy from the sun and very intimately through quantum processes we do not understand, they make it into foods for us. The master equation of life, how plants and animals intricately, very complexly, work to feed each other, to operate in a symbiosis. And they all have a life force, a force that fights against negative entropy. Our friend Schrodinger called it negative entropy, but we call it life force. And this life force is very needed. So we want to get foods that have that life force and that have that living quality. This is a nutrient, very, very important nutrient for us. So we want to get fresh fruits and vegetables into our diet and do as little cooking as possible, because the more we cook, the more we destroy things. Well, in China, they like live food. I went to the Chinese embassy once as a gymnast before the Mexico Olympics, and they had fish that were still alive. And then on trips to Taiwan and Hong Kong, one time in Taiwan, they took me to a restaurant. And there was live food. They were serving live food. This is part of the Chinese way. And then as the night went on, and everybody started to drink and etc., there ended up with about 40-some people, and they were eating the live food, etc. And we got down towards the very, very end of the evening, and the manager of the restaurant said, there's one food that no American has ever eaten. Because I ate the live octopus, etc. But they said, there's one food that no American has ever eaten. He wouldn't tell me exactly what it was. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, there's 40 people in the room. If all of them eat it, then I will eat it. He came out with the food. I watched all 40 of them eat it because I was shocked. And they all ate it. And I was man of my word. I said I would do. And that food that they brought out was live baby mice. Oh my God. Live baby mice. And they dipped it in a little sauce and they ate it because they like living foods. Here's a little scene from Quigley Down Under.
Some kind of chief or medicine man or something.
What's this?
More than likely something that came out of the south end of a North Pond kangaroo.
To survive in Australia, there's not enough fat in the animals. We need to eat some fat to live. A small amount of fat is essential to the healthy diet. It's essential because we need this fat to help us absorb the fat-soluble vitamins. So it's very important we get some fat in the diet. If you eat only rabbit, and the rabbit does not have much fat at all, you can get protein poisoning and die from eating only rabbit. You have to have some of the grubs in the wilds of Australia to live.
Much obliged.
Eating live animals, live plants is important. Our friend Erwin Schrodinger taught us about NegEntropy, the life force. There is a life force in living things that we need to survive. It's a needed nutrient. We need to get this in our foods.
I don't eat things that are still moving.
Gonna shoot it first?
The Aborigines were giving him some of their most treasured food, because we need to eat some fat to live. Now,
The type of food you consume decides the degree of consciousness you can command. Pure food, pure mind. We want more life force, more life energy, health.
now, here we have caviar. Now, this is a live food. It's fish eggs. Very special, very healthy. Lots of NegEntropy. Caviar in all its forms has a life energy, a life force. Now, you're getting some life force with whatever. If there's bacteria in everything you eat, it's impossible to get bacteria, because we are part of a microbiome, a bacteria world, where we have a symbiotic relationship with the bacteria and all of these other different parasites. Supposedly parasites, but they're actually symbiocytes. They work with us. We have to have these things in order to be healthy.
We mean green. Green fruits, vegetables have life force. They are healthy. Leaves of kale, celery, green apple, lemon, cucumber,
Fresh
handful of
and raw,
parsley,
blend them in.
totally green cucumber, apple, spinach, kale, celery, kiwi. Drink your greens. They are really good for you.
This will get you a life force, powerful life force.
Turns on your metabolic system.
We talk about prana, the energy of the life force, and it's very, very rich in the pomegranate. So we want to get that, and we also want to recognize that we want to use live acidophilus yogurts.
It's very easy to prepare, tastes very good, and
Maple
your
syrup.
stomach needs the bowel flora.
Raspberry, strawberry. Mix it into your nice, healthy yogurt. You're getting all these things live. See, look over there. These things are
Blueberry.
fresh.
Fresh, and they help you to be able to dilute better the food, to digest, and to preserve all the nutrition what you need.
And you're getting life force.
Life
entropy. Life energy, NegEntropy.
And you have a good taste. It is really delicious.
You learn how to use and expand the prana, the energy.
You can also use high vibrational diet, yoga, positive affirmations.
All different types of things. Make a
Acceptance.
life energy prana lifestyle. Here's chlorella. Now here's algae, different types of algae that have the life force in it. It's a living thing. And you'll get that life force.
Chlorella is a green algae.
Spirulina, very powerful. And it just takes a very small amount, half a teaspoon sometimes, maybe even less.
Spirulina is also a better force of GLA.
And it activates all these different things, gives you that life force.
Great for cell regeneration, easily digestible superfood.
Keep in mind, soaking the nuts and seeds to get rid of the enzyme inhibitors, and then we start that life process.
The life force, the nutrition.
It's very important that we learn to wipe away those enzyme inhibitors, because we are meant to have seed products. This is what the Bible has told us.
This type of mindset will keep you healthy, aware, and really, really active, full of life force.
Alfalfa sprouts.
Nutritional
wonderful.
benefits.
Getting this life energy, it doesn't take too much. And all of the health benefits that you get from this algae.
Are preventing cancer, strengthen the immune system.
Another one that's very powerful is the yeast. And we have our oxystim formula. It's very, very powerful.
It supplies also more oxygen for the brain.
And it's a living thing. It's a type of pangamic acid yeast. Very, very
It's
powerful.
a mental nutrition, a mental life force.
And the nutritional yeast, fantastic. Now let's learn a lot more about yeast.
In an article entitled The Treatment of Inoperable Cancer, it was noted that 200 years ago, it was observed that a certain number of malignant growths disappeared after an attack of a type of strep infection. And that was 200 years before 1901, when this was published. A disproportionate number of cases of spontaneous tumor regressions have followed various infections. The thought is that an infection may kind of so rile up the immune system, the cancer may get caught in the crossfire, a phenomenon that may have inspired healers dating back to the ancient Egyptians thousands of years ago. But you don't know until you put it to the test. Though it wasn't formally studied until the 1800s, when doctors started intentionally infecting cancer patients. The most famous proponent was William Coley, the so-called father of immunotherapy at what would eventually become Memorial Sloan Kettering. He was convinced that having a severe infection could cause cancer to regress. So with a great deal of courage, he started injecting cancer patients. The problem, of course, is that causing infections is quite dangerous, and 2 of his patients died. However, their tumors did shrink. If only there was a way we could boost the immune system without killing people. Well, that's the theory behind therapeutic cancer vaccines, one of which has been in practice for decades, squirting a weakened bovine tuberculosis bacteria into the bladders of patients with bladder cancer to make the immune system attack, boosting long-term survival up to 36%. OK, but is there something we can eat that can boost immune function? In my videos on countering stress-induced immune suppression and preventing common childhood infections, I reviewed evidence about a type of fiber in bakers, brewers, and nutritional yeast called beta-glucans, which are considered immunomodulatory compounds, suggested to enhance the defense against infections and, potentially, cancer. Beta-glucans themselves do not appear to have a direct cytotoxic effect in terms of killing cancer cells, but may boost anti-tumor immunity by activating our immune cells. For example, if you take freshly excised tumors of breast cancer patients and let loose natural killer cells upon them, they can kill off a small percentage of the tumor cells, but first prime them in vitro with some yeast beta-glucans, and they become 5 times more effective at killing cancer cells. What if you just eat it, though? When 23 women with metastatic breast cancer were given just a 16th of a teaspoon of nutritional yeast worth of beta-glucans, they experienced a 50% increase in the number of monocyte white blood cells in their bloodstream, which are part of our natural defenses, as well as a significant increase in their activation. But it was just a 2-week study. The clinical significance of this finding is unclear. What we want to know is if they actually live longer. The only English-language randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial of breast cancer patients in beta-glucan was more of a wound-healing study, where they found that the women taking beta-glucan healed so much faster after surgery that the tubes could be removed from their chests and armpits, in some cases days earlier. This was the first clinical study to demonstrate improved wound healing using oral beta-glucans. The other 2, showing benefits for pediatric burns and leg ulcers, were performed using topical beta-glucan preparations, putting it on the skin directly, something that did not appear to reverse precancerous skin lesions better than placebo. But that's because the placebo cream worked so well, too. Both groups showed a significant reduction. They speculated that since each patient acted as their own control, putting the beta-glucan cream on one arm and the placebo cream on the other, that the application of beta-glucans on one arm may have been absorbed into the system and helped on the other arm, given that systematic effects have been noted following topical administration. But what effect might oral beta-glucans have on the progression of internal cancers? Yeah, oral yeast beta-glucans can cause dramatic tumor shrinkage in mice, but there appears to be only one human study published in English. 20 patients with advanced cancer on chemo were given a beta-glucan supplement in an open-label, uncontrolled trial. 60% of the patients supposedly reported a sense of well-being while taking the beta-glucan and asked to remain on the treatment after the completion of the study. But that just sounds like classic placebo effect. Same thing with reporting being less tired. But this is interesting. One patient with lymphoma and enlarged lymph nodes in the neck, who delayed his standard chemotherapy for 4 weeks during the study, noted a marked reduction in the size of the nodes while taking the supplement alone. So this, one kind of anecdotal case is interesting, especially since there are no side effects, but not exactly revolutionary. In Japan, there have been more than 20 randomized controlled trials on the use of beta-glucans as an adjunct cancer treatment, which evidently show an enhancement of chemo or radiation therapy, resulting in a positive effect on survival and quality of life. For example, there was evidently a study on taking a yeast beta-glucan supplement to help cancer relapse after surgery. There were no relapses in the treated group, compared to about 1 in 5 in the control group. Even more intriguing, yeast beta-glucans for inoperable cancer patients, end-stage cancer, since only about 1 in 20 patients made it 3 months, and by 6 months they were all dead. Whereas in the treated group, most survived for more than 3 months. Not 1 in 20, but most, and 43% were still alive after 6 months. Now, evidently, it's not clear how patients were divvied up into treatment versus control groups. If they weren't randomly assigned, they may have inadvertently cherry-picked healthier patients for the treatment group, which could explain the results. Now, I've looked for this study everywhere, so I could get it translated, but even the National Library of Medicine couldn't find it. If anyone out there can, though, I'll do a follow-up video. But the amount of beta-glucan they used is what you'd find in a single pinch of nutritional yeast, which would cost less than a penny, and the only side effect would be tastier popcorn. So why not give it a try?
So now we've taught you more about life force and getting life energy.
And life energy into your digestion, into your diet, into your everyday life.
Yeast, algae, fresh fruits, vegetables, sprouts, life energy.
Change your mindset, change your life.
This is Desiree Dubonnet
And Rita Nemi.
signing off for today.
Bye.
Goodbye.